they had divided us into groups. So each day, different persons were responsible for maintaining the little plot of land. So I used to be fascinated seeing this one little seed go from that to having a leaf, 2 leaves, 3 leaves, to seeing an actual cucumber. So that is, I would say, ignited the spark in me.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Tonight we have with us Miss Denecia West. She will introduce herself. Ms. Denecia West, go ahead, introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Denecia West, a 32-year-old Montasian, born and bred. I have been in agriculture for very, very short period of time. I started around COVID. Right. So it was because of the lockdown, I needed something to do. Everybody was indoors. So I ended up online scrolling. And then I realized that I started liking videos and pictures about agriculture. So then that's what prompted me to get into agriculture. And I could say that I found my passion, gardening. I wouldn't quite say farming as yet. I haven't gone as intensive and I haven't started selling produce. I wouldn't
Yeah,
necessarily call myself an entrepreneur per se as yet, but I found my hobby.
and your hobby. It's almost like you found the light in the darkest time, right? Because COVID was a really
In,
hard time, and
indeed,
you found your passion in there in the time when
indeed,
everywhere was dark. You found something about yourself, and I think that's symbolic of a lot of during that transition.
mhm, that is true. I would definitely say I needed that lockdown to get myself into this. Because if it wasn't for that, I'm not sure I would have ever gone into backyard gardening.
Okay, so you said you're from Montserrat. How is Montserrat? How is it right now over there?
Most of this quiet as it always is. As you know or may not know, we don't really have crime per se. Any crime is perhaps something petty, like stealing or so, but you don't get it often. And whenever you do get it, you might get a little burst of it where somebody just won't goes on like a spree, and then
Okay,
that's the end of it.
back to
Um,
normal.
or murder rate is perhaps once every 5 years, perhaps. There's not
Wow.
much of us, so we notice when someone is missing.
So what's the population like? Rough estimate.
Roughly 4,900, roughly give or take, somewhere close to 5,000. They're actually doing a census right now, so everybody's anxiously waiting on the census because we've been having quite a bit of a brain drain recently. A lot of the younger people are leaving. They're going to find better opportunities. Many different reasons why they're leaving. So we're actually and they're able to export it to other countries. So we've done some exports, and the people around the islands around the Caribbean who have used our materials in the
If
building of their roads and their bridges.
yeah, we know about the 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 volcano, does that make your produce, or does that the effects of the volcano, the sand and the and all the ashes that lay down afterwards, does that make agriculture more proficient? Does it do something to the crop? Does it make the soil more fertile?
The best answer is it would, but we have exclusion zones. So those areas that the volcano would have affected, they have different levels of restrictions. So there's some areas that is absolutely no go. We can't go there. And then there's some other areas that we can go during certain parts of the day with permission. And then the other parts we can go in and come up, but nobody lives on that side. So what differentiates the safe and the unsafe zone is a Bellum River Valley. I'm
Okay.
not sure if you saw that on the map when you were looking the other day. But right, so the Bellum River Valley, um, before time used to be a bridge that you cross. Now there's absolutely no bridge. It's just a wide waterway that sometimes when it's raining heavy, you actually get advisories not to cross it because it could actually cause you to lose control of your vehicle. You could get washed down to sea. It can be very dangerous sometimes.
Okay.
So anything past that is where you would have had most of the volcanic activity and you would have had all of the ash and the more fertile soil. So there's very limited access over there.
So basically, you found your passion in the darkest time of COVID, and you're actually trying to grow your passion in an economy and a nation where it's difficult in some sense. Just to say the least, it's difficult because of the conditions of natural disasters, so to speak. So Mother Nature is ripping havoc. Mother Nature is ripping havoc on the socioeconomic landscape together with a global pandemic. It makes it very difficult for you to thrive. So you're underground and yet still you're growing as a plant. No wonder you fell in love with agriculture. So I would ask you, were you always interested? What can you think about your life back as a little girl to see if there was something that pinpoints your interest in agriculture? Because I know for me, as a little boy, when I was growing up, I always tried to grow something behind the house, but I was a bit impatient. I used to plant a seed and go and watch it every morning to see if it germinates. So it wasn't germinating. I was like, the seed probably it died or something. And when it started germinating, I was so excited and it germinates. And I feel, and as a teacher, what I tend to do as well, I tend to help young persons grow. I love development. So it's almost like planting a seed. You have a child, you plant a seed of good characteristics in them, you plant a seed of positive traits in them, and you water that seed all the time and you allow them to grow to bear flowers. That's the same concept that I have with agriculture. You plant something and you let it grow. And that's really cultivating Mother Nature, so to speak, because Mother Nature can be very difficult to bear, but when you can work with Mother Nature, you can create beautiful things. So as an individual, can you think about your life, or is there one point in your life when you can go back and say, probably this was what I was doing all the time and I didn't know? Because some persons would say they always wanted to be a teacher. They used to teach puppies, they used to beat the desk and all of that. But you finding your passion in agriculture, is there something that point to that?
Yes, but my family history is actually farming. So my grandfather was a full-time farmer. Well, he was a farmer and a taximan. And then my mother, she does her own backyard gardening. I would consider her a farmer because she has a whole backyard full of vegetation. She actually sells and stuff like that. But I was never into it with either. I grew up, okay, so I was 3 years old when the volcano erupted. During that time, I had to migrate. So I left Montserrat and I went to live with my grandparents in Anguilla. Then I went to Antigua with them. So I spent quite a bit of my younger years with my grandparents. And then in Antigua, my grandfather, natural farmer to his bone. So he actually got a plot of land. He leased a plot of land, probably it was an acre or so. So the house was at the top. And then coming down to the back of the land, which is most of the land, used to have all the vegetation. So he used to have a lot of peas, bananas, ground provisions, a lot of that in the backyard. So my little brother and I used to run out in the backyard and run behind my grandfather, or he'd call to us, oh, bring some water for me, or carry this back inside. So I used to see to say I was involved in it. What I used to do, however, was to try to outsmart my grandmother, because she used to pick the peas, the pigeon peas. I'm not sure, do you call it pigeon peas as well, right?
Yeah.
Right. I know every country calls things differently. So that's why I like that.
Culture.
Right. So my grandmother, she used to pick the peas, and then it used to be my greatest delight to try to sneak up on her and put my hand in the bowl and pick up the peas that's already shelled. And I have to do it swiftly enough so that she doesn't catch me and poke me. And then, because that's the only thing out of the farm I used to really eat.
Yeah.
They never used to get me to eat the vegetables much, but then those peas, I just used to keep going for the peas. So that's how I grew up around agriculture. I do remember when a spark was ignited in me. I was in primary school. So on the primary school, the school had two levels. So as you're walking up to go to the top floor, you have to go up the first flight of stairs, then you turn to go up the next flight to get to the second floor. So underneath those stairs, there was like a patch. So when I was in, I think grade 4 or grade 5, the teachers gave us like an assignment. So we had to plant some vegetables underneath there. So we had to plant corn and we had to plant cucumber and something else. I don't know what it is, but I remember it was about 3 different plants. So then they had divided us into groups. So each day, different persons were responsible for maintaining the little plot of land. So I used to be fascinated seeing this one little seed go from that to having a leaf, 2 leaves, 3 leaves, to seeing an actual cucumber. So that is, I would say, ignited the spark in me. You were speaking earlier about when you plant and you see the seed grow. I remember doing that when I was in primary school. So, this trick where they use a plastic cup and they put, you're familiar with that one? But they have a plastic cup and you put a piece of tissue inside. And then between the tissue and the plastic cup, you would put the seed. That way you'd be able to see the seed growing. So you see the roots, right? So we did that with what you call that seed? Red beans.
Red beans.
Right.
I think that's the whole Caribbean. We
Right.
did
So
that.
that
I
was
actually visited
exciting.
my class last term. Red beans, have them to watch the germination process.
Right. So they germinate really quickly and the roots go really big. So you get to see properly what is happening. It was fascinating. I'm telling you. I was like, wow, this is what happens on the ground. Okay.
I read this famous author and he said something akin to that. He said, people don't choose the interest
Mhm.
shows. So probably you were always interested in something because you are part of what I do and part of what I'm interested in is personal development, and personal development falls in the path of purpose, what you're trying to do with your life and what does your life mean, and to know what your life means, it gives a kind of vitality and vibrance to your being, to your state of being, that other
Mhm.
who do not live with a purpose. They wonder, why are you so driven? Why are you always lighting up? Because there is something that's deep inside of your soul that it finds expression in your actions. Because sometimes you ask, what's the meaning of a cup? The meaning of a cup is something that holds water, something with a
Mhm.
that holds water. So the meaning of something gives that thing the utility. Every time you try to define something, you always speak about the utility of that thing. So I published a book, Purpose Driven, that called The Meaning of Life is Finding a Purpose to Live. So hearing you speak, I tend to take me back to some of the ideas in that book when I articulated that what you are called to do in your life, it's not something that you choose, but something that beacon onto you after a while. Like you're interested in something, but you don't know that you're interested in it. You're on a journey in some sense. And when you map out the journey, you realize it, that's what it was the whole time. But some parts of you are not totally aware, because you were speaking to me about your genealogy in some sense. Like your grandmother was interested in that. Your grandfather, he was a taxi driver, but he was also interested in farming. Do you think that it was just coincidence, that something you just find that passion during COVID? Probably COVID had you to stop and reflect and to ask yourself, what is it that Denecia wanted to do? What Denecia can do to make a contribution to life? And how can she serve herself to other persons? How can she caregive in the best possible way that she can caregive? And
Mhm.
Mother Nature, you decide to provide food. That's not far-fetched. You provided food. You're interested in nurturing. You're interested in feeding, and that's very interesting.
That is true. I've always been interested in nature. So I'm always been an outdoors person. So it had a point in time when my friends and I, every other weekend, we're up in the hills. That's another thing to do in Montreal in case you do visit. We have a lot of nature trails. So almost every other weekend, we're on another hike. We're up in the bush, up in the bushes, up in the hills, taking in that fresh air. Because you know the air up there is different to down here, right? Yeah. The vegetation, everything is just different. It's as if you become alive again when you go up into the hills.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, between the exercise and the fresh air, the birds, the green leaves, the vegetation, it is beautiful. It is beautiful. So I have always been interested in nature, but to pinpoint where exactly in nature, I don't know. One of my favorite subjects was actually geography, absolute favorite. But what I think the issue was that we couldn't find any geography teachers. That's a limitation at the college. So I wasn't able to take it past O levels, but it was an absolute favorite subject. So yes, I've always had an interest, but to pinpoint where within geography or agriculture it was, I didn't know. Until, as I said, during COVID, I had the extra time. I'm there on my phone, I'm scrolling, I'm seeing stuff because the algorithm is trying to figure you out before you figure yourself out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then I would see pictures, videos, and then I went on eBay and I bought these stackable pots. I spent a little too much money on stackable pots.
Just does that.
But I wanted to invest in something that looks nice on my porch. So then I got those and I went by my aunt and I got some slips because she does her own gardening as well. But I didn't want anything normal. So I was like, okay, what does she have that I really want? So I got some pepper trees and I got some Swiss chard. And I put those in my pots. Within the nick of time, those out with the pots. And then I had to get barrels. So I had to cut the barrels in half. So I cut them long way. What do you call it? Right, long. And then got some blocks to hold them in place because if you put too much weight inside of them, then they're gonna break on the side. And then I got the next barrel and then the next barrel. Then I outgrew all of those. Then this interest just keeps spiking. Then I ended up getting grow bags. I would recommend anybody listening to this podcast, if you don't have much space, buy grow bags. They are worth the investment. They're a little pricey, maybe about 40, 50 US for a bag of 20, they're more, but it's worth it. I've had those since about early 2021, give or take, and I still have them. Only about 4 or 5 of them have damaged, but I bought 2 sets, so I had about 40 bags. So I had a 5-gallon and a 7-gallon. Best investment because they don't damage easily. And if you're like me, who like to try different things and try to rearrange your crops because you want a certain aesthetic, and you want to be able to walk through your crops, and you're like, okay, this one looks more like that one, so let me put it over here, and then put one over here. You just want to move around your crops, grow bags.
So what?
They don't require much to me.
You said something about you like to try different things. When you say you like to try different things, does that speak about innovation? Like, do you try to look at things and try to extract new possibilities out of them? And if so, what are the new things that you're trying? And what are the crops that you have experimented with, if you have? And what are the crops that you're working with right now? And what experimentation or innovation that you have come across?
Okay, I have tried everything except what you normally see on the shelves. So I do tomatoes. So I've had at least 7 different types of tomatoes, and none of which have been the regular red tomatoes that you see on the shelf. I've tried okra. I don't grow green okra. I've had purple okra. I've had purple, what you call it, pak choy. I have white sweet pepper. What else? I have so much in here. I have purple string beans.
You actually spoke about the white cucumbers.
Oh yes. You did. I did send you the video.
Yeah.
I tried it the other day, and it tastes really nice actually. It doesn't have any bitterness to it. It's bitter. It doesn't have any bitterness. It just went on really smooth. I won't say it's sweet, it just doesn't have anything bitter to it. So I've had white cucumber. I'm trying to remember everything. I know I've done so much. I've had yellow zucchini. Are you familiar with yellow zucchinis?
Yeah.
Okay, right. I've had patty pan squashes. You familiar with those?
That one is difficult.
Difficult for
I haven't had much experiences with them.
okay. Patty pan squashes, even though they name squash, they're
Yeah.
actually they're just like zucchinis.
Mhm.
They eat just like zucchinis. What else have I had in that kind? I've had so much things and I'm not remembering all of them. I've tried potato.
Well, basically short-term crops, right?
Yes, because of my space is limited. Short term is the only thing that really works for me.
So
I don't.
it speaks to being sustainable. It speaks to you being sustainable and being able to grow stuff right in your backyard and you do it sustainably and you can provide yourself with the produce that you plant. And do you share with your community, your friends?
Yeah, as I said before, I don't sell. And to be honest, I don't think I can sell because this might sound strange, but I don't think anybody could pay me for the work that I've made. If I was doing it on a large scale, I could see that happening. But the amount of work that goes into having like 2 pounds of tomatoes is not worth me telling anybody to buy this. I prefer to give them away. So I have very close family and friends, some of which would have helped me in the past with my garden, setting it up and so forth. And I would call them every now and again. Do you want some lettuce? Do you want some string beans? Do you want some thyme? Anything I have, I normally offer.
Yeah, great. So let's talk about AACARI and your relationship with AACARI, the regional organization. Can you speak to that? How did you form a relationship with AACARI? And what's that and what does that look like for you and what you're doing right now? Your relationship with AACARI and how did that come about?
You're chipping up a bit. Okay. So I do my little backyard, and then every now and again I would need like little fertilizers or what you call it, grow mix or anything from my backyard. So I would go to the Farmers Association. Then I found out that if I'm a registered member, I could get a discount. So obviously Denecia registered. Then I was like, I'm registered. I might as well just be a part of the association. Let me go and hear what's happening because I'm sure I have something to offer the association.
Yep.
And I've been attending regularly, I would say. Probably miss one or two meetings because we meet once every month. And I would say I'm the youngest in the room. I am the youngest in the room, and I try to bring a more youthful perspective and I try to encourage them to embrace more technologies and try to find ways to help ourselves. Because yes, a lot of times we say government, but then how can we help ourselves? How can we try things differently? What else can work for us? So coming out of that, the president, Mr. Claude Brown, he would have recommended me to join AACARI division. And that's how I ended up in AACARI.
Probably that drove you in the direction of AACARI, the regional organization for agriculture, and with that, I'm part of that organization as well. And a lot of the conversations that surrounds AACARI is finding innovative ideas or innovative solutions or innovative processes to solve the food insecurity of the Caribbean. With your interest in agriculture, are you working on solving a problem? Are you working on implementing something new? Are you working on addressing a deeper problem, or is it sustainable agriculture for just sustainable agriculture? But are you thinking of something deeply that you want to address, or haven't you found something deeper that you'd like to solve, or do you want to go down that path?
Um, okay. So how I see myself contributing, it's me reaching out to persons. And I think I've done that by joining the association. So from within the organization, I try to hear what the issues are. Because even in my work, because I do internal auditing. So my approach to this is that I hear what the issues are. I hear what the collective issues are. One farmer, two farmer, three farmers. Okay, this is a systemic. Everybody has this issue. What can be done about this issue? I would acknowledge the efforts of the Ministry of Agriculture. They have been providing support to the farmers. But then even outside of them, how can I encourage these farmers to take up the opportunities available to them? How can I encourage these farmers to create opportunities for themselves as well? Sometimes they don't need people speaking down to them because they are expert farmers or they went to school to study agriculture. Sometimes it can rub people the wrong way. I'm not saying that's always the case. But if you're speaking to someone or you're speaking with someone, as in you understand their issues because you also do it. I understand that farmers have issues with drought. They have issues with iguanas, agoutis. They have issues with chicken. So I try to speak to them and find out what their issues are, what could possibly solve their issues from the perspective that I also have the same problem. And I try to bring optimism. I don't like to hear problems unless there's a solution coming right after. I like to, I have this thing where I see issues and I can figure out a solution. Whether it's practical or not, whether it's financially feasible or not, I can find solutions. So it's not that I want to go there and save agriculture. I'm not seeing it like that. I'm just seeing it like, okay, if something comes along and I can help, I will do such. Is that clear, or was I rambling a little bit too much there?
Yeah, that's exactly the thought process, because basically when you pursue a goal, when you pursue an aim, the aim is never well specified. And for example, your aim or what you're pursuing right now is, well, agriculture too, on a smaller scale. But as you wrestle with it, as you participate in it, for lack of a better word, your horizon and your knowledge, well, your knowledge about it expands. And when your knowledge about the goal that you pursue expands, you get to the borderline of where the expansion is, whether it is individually, whether it is on a community level, whether it is on a national level, or whether it is on a regional level. And that's a hierarchy of levels. So probably on the individual level, you might have some problems. So when you try to solve that problem, you might see, okay, it's something with the community. So in order to solve your individual problem, you then spun out into, okay, this is happening in the community as well. So if I try to solve it for myself only, it will not be sustainable, so to speak, because it's affecting the community as well. So then you go out to the community and you decide that, okay, you're getting somewhere, but then you encounter another problem. So that problem is actually linked with the initial problem that you were facing individually. So if you let that problem go, the other problem that you try to address, it will come back. So you build a walled garden around that problem. So now you're trying to spun out to help the nation in some sense, because that community problem links into the national problem. And then you can imagine that it goes up that level. But selfishly, and sometimes it's necessary to be, some persons only think about solving the problem for themselves. But then I like reading the biblical text when it says, the least among you become those that are servants to others. When they ask Christ, they ask him, who is the most important, something like that. And he said, the greatest among you is those that live of service to others. So at some point when you participating in the field that you're participating in, and when you try to solve problems for yourself, and you're genuinely trying to wrestle with that problem for yourself, it takes you to the highest level. And right now, a regional organization like AACARI, that is the aims for AACARI, and that is why my interest is in working with a regional organization to the degree that I can provide whatever expertise that I can provide, not just for myself but for my community and for my nation, for my country, to the degree that I can do that. And if we end up thinking like that, this would be one of the, and food insecurity tends to have a level of a thinking problem as well, because what you have in your mind, that's how you act out in the world. So sometimes the way we do the concepts that we hold, the ideas that we hold, when we act it out in the real world, it doesn't produce whatever that we are expecting it to produce. Just like the ground, if you plant in a specific crop and you do not have the right conditions for that crop, the harvest that you're expecting might not be. And then again, you and your community suffer because you want to share with different persons, because we have that natural tendency to share and to love and to develop others around us. So with that aspect, with agriculture and what you're doing right now, together with what you're doing on the ground as an individual and what you're doing via the community and what you are participating in the regional level with AACARI, what mindset do you hold as an individual? What personal philosophy as a young lady that you can articulate that's why you have developed that level of service to others? How do you see life in some sense? What's your mental frame?
Oh, you're going deep here. I've always been someone to help other people. I never like I don't do it for recognition. So sometimes I don't even let people know what I've done. So there's a lot of stuff that I would do and just not say. I don't even when people come and tell me thanks, I don't even want to say you're welcome, because it wasn't like I did it for thanks. I just did it because I felt like it's something that needed to be done. So even like my passion and my interest in farming association, nobody asked me to do it. It wasn't a case where someone said, okay, Denecia, you have those particular skill set. I think they'll be useful. I think you should join. Nobody had to say that. Within myself, I knew what I'm capable of, and I know what I can bring to the table. So with that, I went seeking opportunities of how to help people in different ways. And I found a passion in the sense that I found a way that I can help other farmers. Not necessarily directly where I can go on their farms, but if it is that, because the association, for example, they sell fertilizers and other supplies. Currently, they're doing everything manually. I went out and I sought quotations to get a point of sale system because I want us to be more efficient. I want it to be more profitable. I want us to start getting persons to join the association. I want there to be a reason for other young people to come. I want us to get a new building. I want us to expand. I can see potential. It's not me wanting to expand. I want to see us expanding. Now, as I said, sometimes we have challenges on it. Some of the issues are related to the climate, or some of it is related to pests. But sometimes it's just lack of accessibility. So sometimes you're not able to access certain fertilizers at the time you need them, or pesticides at the time when you need them, or any other supplies at the time when you need them. So if it is, we can have a more functioning association, then yes, we can wean off of the need to be like, government help us here, government help us here. Because I don't think that we need to depend on government for everything. Government has its role, but I don't think it needs to do everything. The private sector in Montserrat needs to develop. We spoke about it earlier. How do we survive? What do we make money from? Because we have 4,000, well, nearly 5,000 people. So if I can contribute towards building a private sector, I will be pleased, because it's not just for me, it's for everybody else. It will be for my generation, my next generation to come. Everybody benefits. I love Montserrat. I would not trade it for anywhere else. Sometimes I do want to leave, but I know if I leave, I'm going to want to come back. So if I do leave, I'm not going to leave for very long. And even if I do, it has to be another Caribbean island because I have to have that island life. I have to have that fresh air. I have to have that access to fresh vegetables just picked off the tree. So I want to help. I'm one of the few who haven't left yet. Sometimes when I think about what's happening socially, politically, I consider buying a ticket and just go. But at the end of the day, I know what I'm going out there to is not necessarily going to be a bed of roses, so I might as well stick to what I know and what I don't know. So you're asking what drives me? I guess based on that long rant, my love of country, my love of the outdoors, my love of serving others, just my passion for nature, I suppose. To summarize that, I'm not sure how much more condensed I could get than that.
Yeah, and that's it's almost like you're participating in it, and it's not about you. It's a
No,
selfless
no.
and
It is
how
because
and
I don't look
how
for
you feel. I want to know how you feel when you achieve such a selfless act, which again is profiting to you, and it's profiting to your nation, it's profiting to your community and to your region. Is there a specific feeling tied to that? Is there a specific achievement within your own being that ties to that? Because sometimes, and the reason why I ask you that, publishing my book, Happiness versus Joy, and what I was trying to outline is that happiness is an ephemeral feeling. It's ephemeral, and when I say ephemeral, I mean it's short-lived. It's almost like dopaminergic in some sense. It's almost like you're working with your dopamine, and dopamine is it's basically the hormones that gets you to be addicted to something. Let's say drinking and sex, and those things trigger dopamine. But
social media.
yeah, but social. Thank you very much.
The biggest one.
Social media. That's what makes it addictive, because you're looking for that dopamine shot, right? But the long-term effect of serotonin, in some sense, is when you specify a goal, and that goal you specify, let's say for you in agriculture, you specify that goal, and that goal is not only for you, but that goal is for other persons around you. You trigger a different type of hormone, a different type of behavior, a different type of system within yourself. And when you achieve that, it's the feeling is longer than if you just hungry and you eat and you're happy, because that's short-lived. It's deeper. You feel fulfilled, for lack of a better word, because you're participating, and that's why being part of AACARI and being a service individual is very important. But then again, we live in, like you were saying, and you do not want to take away from the fact that the entrepreneurial spirit in the private sector, you can merge that too. You can merge being an entrepreneurial person by, at the same time, your entrepreneurship is genuinely making the world a better place. Because sometimes persons tend to be entrepreneurs in some sense, and what the drug man can be an entrepreneur. You know, the persons, you can have bad products that destroying the environment. You can have products that destroying people's lives. You can have products that are not health conscious to individuals. It gives them diabetes. It gives them all kind of negative attributes to the body or to the environment. But then again, that's the negative part of capitalism. But then again, when you think about it, you can genuinely think through a product, you can think through an idea, you can think through a process, and it benefits all stakeholders involved. It benefits you, it benefits your community, it benefits your nation, it benefits your region. And that kind of thinking that is instantiated within the works of AACARI, and that's what we want to bring to the Caribbean region, and that's what we want to bring to the different islands. I don't know what you think about that.
I agree. Something else I was touching on. You were asking me what drives me. So sometimes I think what people need to do to understand themselves is that they need to. Have you ever heard about the Myers-Briggs personality test?
Yes, Myers-Briggs.
Right. Right. Okay. So you know they have 16 personality types.
Yeah.
So what I would say is that I definitely fall under the ENFJ,
Mhm.
ENFJ. So I am a protagonist. That is literally who I am. So I get my satisfaction from helping somebody else achieve their goals. So me joining the association, it's me trying to help the other farmers achieve their goals. Yes, I have my passion, but I still get more fulfillment from helping others. Me in my role as internal audit, I want the different departments of government to achieve their objectives. I want to see a better Montserrat. Now, sometimes I would say that my focus is not necessarily the strategic all the time. Sometimes I bring it down to the operational level. So, how do we physically get stuff done? How can we move around and shift stuff to get things where we want to go? What you would have spoken about earlier about your vision for joining regional bodies and getting agriculture to where it ought to be within the region. I would agree with that. But for me, that's not necessarily something I personally would focus in because I'm not so much about the strategic part about it as in the regional. I just want people to operate fast. I just want to get to that level before we say, okay, we have is it 25 by 25?
Yeah.
What's the
Yeah.
right? So how are we getting there? I understand that's been established, but then what is happening on the ground?
Yeah.
How are our farmers being supported? Do they feel empowered? Do they feel that, okay, when I have my produce, can I get them sold? Or when I have my produce, are people going to come and steal it? And if they do the laws support punishment of these people? Because to me, anybody who steals crops should get at least a year in jail because the amount of time, effort, blood, sweat, and tears it takes to grow plants. Anybody stealing that, I don't even think they should be getting fines. I think that they should go down because I've spent my little time in my backyard, and to know that someone comes and steal my hard work, it's very disheartening.
Yeah.
So for me, I look at it from the macro level. Let me say that from the macro level. How can I support farmers as is? Not necessarily where we're going, because I don't think we're at the point yet where we could say definitely we're going in that direction when we don't even have enough people farming. We
Yeah.
can't even get enough produce on the local market. The next thing,
Go ahead.
the next thing though, I think that in Montserrat and perhaps the rest of the Caribbean, what we really need to focus on is byproducts. We need to have secondary products. We have a lot of people who might go dashing yam, potato, banana, planting, but we need byproducts because we are not a generation that want to stand up by the sink for 20, 30 minutes peeling. We just want it quick, ready in the pot, go. So if we can have persons focusing on that secondary product, that would be very useful. Because not everybody have that time like before. We don't have that interest. We don't have patience like before. Like our mothers and grandparents, they had that patience. And they were willing to just cut a piece of potato, put it on your plate, and that's it. Now we want variety. We want something different. Everybody's going for pasta. Everybody's going for bread or something. Make products that fit into that. Make pastas out of breadfruit flour, something else, something that can incorporate our local produce. That is something I definitely think that you could look at regionally.
There's a
Because
rise, there's a rise in manufacturing in small businesses in the Caribbean, and I've had the privilege to see a lot of the local products on the supermarket,
okay.
and I find it very impressive to see that we
But what
have.
are the prices like? Is it affordable?
It is affordable. It is affordable.
Okay. Is it comparative to imported goods? Is it comparable? Because I know that's one of the drawbacks, the cost of production.
Yes, and that's what we have to work on, because the
So we need
price
economies of
for
scale.
the local products, and I find it's starting to decrease because we're mastering manufacturing. It's starting to decrease, but sometimes we at that level, we're moving there. We're not at the best place yet, but we're making strategic steps. Our labeling, our branding, all of those things are starting to be very appealing. It starts to look like imported products. But then again, the manufacturing, like you were saying, it's very ticklish. It's very difficult to extract a raw material and turn it into a product, and at the same time sell it at a reasonable price for the bulk of the society to be able to afford it. Sometimes you are selling it, but you are selling it to, the higher middle income families. They will be able to afford that. But how much profit can you, if only the middle income or the higher middle income families can afford that? But you need affordable for the lower income families to be able to buy local. But then if you do that, you are operating in a loss all the time. So then you think about manufacturing, the materials that is required to extract and to move the raw materials from one level to the next. Is there a possibility of making it more affordable so that we could sell those products at a lower price and to be able to export around the Caribbean? And that's something I'm genuinely thinking about, because we have a small business as well.
What stops us is economies of scale. The cost and access to the raw materials. One country might not have enough breadfruit to make it viable. So then you probably have to get breadfruit from another country, or even in case of bananas. So I can see that as a job, having enough raw materials to make the process worth it.
Okay. Well, fair enough. But we're moving to that point. And that was a very good point that you made, to be able to be moved to a more manufacturing point of view, and not just use the raw materials. But then those things come with the challenges as well. Those things.
That's true. I would agree.
Yeah. So I think we had a very good conversation. We're going to be wrapping up now.
Okay.
Is there anything you would like to say so that we could wrap up? Anything you want to tell to the audience that would be listening, to the degree that we can get that to happen? So is there anything that you can say about agriculture or participation in agriculture? And how do you see agriculture? Where do you want agriculture to go? And what's your role taking it there?
So from my experience regarding agriculture, what I would recommend to every country in the Caribbean is that you introduce persons from a young age. So from primary school, you give them some seeds, let them grow that, let them take care of it. You have the extension officers come in, explain what are the plants, what are the leaves, what process goes into the leaves. I'll expose them to it. Not everybody's going to be interested, but I was exposed to it and I became interested in it. Well, it sparked it ignited my passion. I didn't necessarily act on it at the time, but I would say that I appreciated the experience. Just having that seed inside of a plastic cup, that alone, I can still remember it to this day. So I would encourage every Caribbean island to do that. Introduce persons from a young age in agriculture. We need them interested. The next thing I would tell everybody, whether young, old, male, female, find your passion. Find your passion, whether it's agriculture, whether it's baking, whether it's making clothes. Find something that brings you solace, and you can turn that into something that makes you money, or you could turn that into something that you can help other persons with, even if it is to knit a sweater, and you could give it to somebody who's not as fortunate. Anything. Find a passion, find a purpose for living, it brings you peace. It will bring you peace. It will bring you warmth. It will bring you joy on your inside to see your creations. Um, yeah, that is what I would say. Find your passion.
All right, great stuff. One more thing as you were speaking came to my mind about agriculture and technology, and I would end by saying that's the next step for us as a nation and as a region to be able to merge agriculture with technology, to be able to get new processes and to be able to make those processes more sustainable and clean and more productive. And the merge of agriculture and technology and education would be a beautiful tie. Would be because we have the last report I read on the better website, it said that 70% of our young people in that region, the English region, I forget the name of the English region. But they had a statistic that said 2.9 billion, we have 2.9 billion young persons in that specific region. And 60% of them are between the ages of 30 to below 30. And those young persons, they are very interested in social media. They are very interested in the new development of technology. And if we can get persons interested in technology to the degree that they can merge that with agriculture and to be more sustainable and to develop agriculture and to get a new interest in agriculture and being productive and maintaining a positive environment, then I think that would be a plus for us in the region. We should not wait for the bigger countries to move forward with the innovation while we sit and wait for them. I think we have enough, and I know, not I think, I know we have enough capability as a people, regionally, nationally, locally, and a community level to be able to come up with those innovations as well. And that's what I'm interested in doing, to allow persons to know we cannot wait for the bigger countries to always come up with some new innovations. We can come up with those innovations. The same minds that they have, we have those minds as well. We can think about new processes. We can think about new technology. We can invent new stuff. If we give ourselves time and we give ourselves to the things that would develop us as a people, I think we'll be able to get it done. So that's the journey, that's the mission. And thank you for speaking with us. Thank you for speaking with me. And I look forward to being able to do something like that with more young Caribbean persons who are interested in that as well. This is the first one. I hope it was done well.
The first of many.
Yeah, thank you for being brave.